Hi guys, and welcome to our Star Wars Resistance recap show, Viva La Resistance. Why do we call it that? Because we love South Park, that's why. I am your host today, Kees Cornelisse, joined by the usual Chris Dohmen. And Chris, why are we doing this Resistance recap show exactly?
I mean, is it because we like this little franchise that started in 1977 that's now gone on to do TV and comic books and movies and other books and...
Can't be it.
No.
Can't be it. Nah. Of course it is. No, both of us, we have been Star Wars fans for quite a while already, and that means that, well, when the Clone Wars came out, I watched the movie. That made me not watch their TV show for a few years. Then I actually did watch the TV show, and that TV show was actually pretty damn good, and I really liked that show. Then Rebels came out, and I also wasn't on board initially. I wasn't watching it, but then The Force Awakens came out, and I saw a couple of things from Rebels. Needed to see that. Love Rebels, really. That's my favorite of the two so far, but I also think Clone Wars is really good. So when Resistance was announced, Filoni is once again working on the project. We needed to see this. I mean, how's this for you? How's the experience for you? Like how
Okay, so to nerd out for a second here, yes, I grew up on Ewoks and Droids, those cartoons from the mid-'80s. So this...
You do not speak of them.
Well, Droids is a little better than a lot of people give it credit for, but I'll talk about this some other time because... Clone Wars, yes, I watched the first, I want to say 4 seasons, and then just because I got caught up in high school, I lost track, but I loved it then, I love it now, and I love it even more now that I've finished it. Then I watched Rebels with some hesitation because...
No, you haven't finished it yet. We're yet to finish it.
Well, that's right, because now we have one more season. Yes! Anyway.
I know.
Anyway. So, with Rebels, I watched the first season, and it took me a little bit to get into it, but once I started getting into it, what I found was that I was really loving these characters. I wasn't necessarily a fan of the story, but I was loving these characters, and I was loving where we were going with them, especially once we got into Season 2, and a lot of the characters they brought back from Clone Wars, which brought in new angles, especially in like Rebel Season 3. There was an episode that dealt with one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars and how the war left a lasting impact on him. Less said about that episode, the better for Kees.
Okay.
But that's because he's stupid. But that's neither here nor there. But no, so overall, I love Rebels, but I love Clone Wars more just because I got to learn more about the galaxy versus the tighter storytelling of Rebels. So the show comes out, this trailer, this wonderful trailer with beautiful, gorgeous animation that's, clearly anime influenced, much like my favorite show of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender. But what do you people say? Oh, it looks terrible.
Yeah, it's too kiddie for some people. For some people, I saw the comment section on YouTube, it was just... Everyone was just hating on it before we even got a show, just because the animation looks kind of kiddie. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the animation looks good. I mean, it's a different style. It's not the same as Rebels and Clone Wars. It looks different. Oh my god, what are you gonna do about it? It still looks good, it's a new kind of style of animation, and I think that it really works for the show, actually, having seen a couple of these episodes.
Absolutely, and yeah, so... And one final thought before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of this story and this episode and these new characters. It's kind of nice that each of the shows sort of reflect the era of Star Wars that they're from. Because you could say that Clone Wars very much has the aesthetic of the prequels. Rebels very much had the aesthetic of the original trilogy. This 100% feels like Episode 7, 8, and presumably 9 will be. So, yeah, it's supposed to feel different because the new films are so different. And yes, they are very divisive, but they're also really good. Much to the disbelief of a lot of fans. But less said about that, the better.
Yeah. With Resistance, I watched the first episode last week. I couldn't do a recap then because there was personal stuff going on, but I did watch the episode, at least the first one, and also we watched the second and third one by now. And this first episode, I was like, this is a really good episode. I really like it. Even if you compare it to the pilot episode of Rebels, which I'm going to compare it to because for some, like, I can't really compare it to the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars had a very different start to it. Rebels had a much more similar start, where we have a first episode, which is 2 parts of 45 minutes. I thought this was really good, well animated. We get into it with the action from the beginning. We get some of the characters that we know from the movies, the new trilogy, and of course we're introduced to these new characters. Most importantly, of course, Cass. What was your response to the first episode?
Even though Kaz is a complete pain in the butt, I can't wait to start watching him grow. I can't wait to see how he becomes a stronger character. And already he's just from the first episode when he is out flying with his wingmates and they're fighting that TIE fighter and he actually hold him off. That's a very noble thing. So that shows that Kaz is a character that has good intentions, but he's kind of a hothead, kind of like another blue-haired kid that you and I both like.
I'm okay with Ezra. He's definitely not my favorite character of Rebels, but I'm fine with him. There's a whole nother reason that I love Rebels as much as I do. I'm sorry, it's not Ezra. I do think that so far, to be fair, when Rebels started, when I watched Ezra in the first couple of episodes, there's a similarity between Ezra and Cass, which I noticed, because Ezra, while also trying to be noble, he was really called Aladdin in that first episode, because they literally at one point call him Street Rat in that, which makes sense. He does steal in that episode. Cass doesn't, of course. Cass is shown to be more of a resistance fighter, but and yeah, there is a difference, but I do think it's going to be a similar type of arc throughout the show, where Ezra, when he starts off, he has some potential. There are some things that he already can do, but he still needs to learn a whole lot because he's a kid. Same with Cass. He has he's a good pilot. We see that. He has some nobility to him, but he also messes up sometimes, and he needs to learn how to become a better person, essentially, because he's still young. There's still a lot to learn for him, and well, it doesn't really help. I mean, no, wait, crap. Edit.
Yep.
Damn it. And for Cass, I think that the lessons that he's going to learn, it helps that he is being forced into the situation by Poe Dameron, where he has to go to this the space station. Not really. I don't know. They call it Colossus Space Station, but it's the Colossus. Yeah. It's on the water, of course.
Well, it's I think they even said it's an oil rig.
Yeah, it is very much like an oil rig. At least that's what it looks like. So yeah, over there he's put into this crew, and he has to spy for the Resistance while trying to work as a mechanic, and he also wants to be a pilot. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to how this show is going to go based on this first episode. There were a lot of things already happening in this episode, where Cass got in a fight with the locals in a bar. He actually managed to fly. He got himself into a race, which he doesn't win. Very interesting, because we know he's a good pilot, so he had the potential to win, but he was given not the best ship.
And I think that comes back to that sort of Filoni philosophy of where he's gonna have our heroes want something, and they're technically gonna get it, but not in the way that they think, because he wants to prove that he's a great pilot, so he's gonna do it by winning the race. And you know what? We were thinking about whether or not to do spoilers. Screw it. Let's do spoilers for each episode, because by the time they come out, the episode will have dropped. If you're watching this show, you'll have watched the episode. And actually, going back to Poe Dameron for a second with you, Case, how did you feel about his cameo? Like, do you think it was forced, or did you think it was very genuine in the way he
No,
showed up?
to me it makes sense because heck, Poe Dameron is the best pilot in the Resistance. We've seen that in the movies, and this one shows it again. Like he shows up when these kids who are supposed to do something for the Resistance, it goes a little bit wrong. So Poe shows up to save the day, which is something that we would definitely do. And then he actually takes a liking to Cass because what he sees already in that first scene is that Cass is a good pilot and that he is potentially a good someone to have for the Resistance. So that's why Poe comes in, takes Cass under his wing, essentially, brings him to this guy called Jaeger on the Colossus, and then then the actual show starts, essentially, where now we're on the Colossus. That's the setting, at least for these episodes, for this season. I think that'll be the setting where, well, Cass just has a couple of adventures. He has to fly, and yeah, no. In terms of the cameos that we saw from the things that we know from the movies, like Poe was really cool.
I was super worried that they were gonna have him act like he was at the end of The Last Jedi versus how he was pre-Force Awakens. But no, now we're back to that sort of brash, cocky, sort of hotshot pilot that Poe was at the beginning of Force Awakens, which, continuity. Aren't you a wonderful thing?
Oof, but continuity in Star Wars.
Well, and listen, you got to give them credit that that's exactly what they were going for, and that's what they achieved. So,
true.
What I do also just want to say in terms of just this immediate setup is, I do like how it was Kaz who gets the shot on that TIE pilot. It's not Poe. Poe just sets him up for success.
True.
Like that was a wonderful moment. That might have been my favorite moment of the episode, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point because it instantly already shows a lot of character from Cass himself, which is something that you want that. Like, especially from someone who loves Rebels that much. Rebels is a show with a lot of character. It really made sure that it had time to build the characters. All the Ghost crew and the additional characters naturally come in, and those characters also get a character arc throughout the show, which I thought was really cool. So, as someone who loves the characters essentially in Star Wars, because that's really important in Star Wars, that's something that Mr. Plinkett really describes in his review. Like, you need to have relatable, fun, good characters to make sure that you are able to understand something.
Which
in this
the
crazy...
Last Jedi did.
In this crazy universe in a galaxy far, far away, like, you need characters that are relatable to you, and that's what you already get in Star Wars Resistance. Like, heck, probably my favorite character so far is like Niku, because he is like so he is like me,
Niku.
because people probably don't notice, but I have Asperger's, which makes you have a certain mindset that you're really focused on, like, the literal. And he's a little bit like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's really focused on everything literal. But that's so awesome because, seriously, I have had those moments. So, like, for me, he is a little bit relatable. But Cass, of course, he's the normal guy. He's the one that most people should relate to. And he also has, like, very relatable features. And I think that it's great that already the show is introducing different type of characters so that everyone has something to relate to, which is also something Rebels did, where it had a crew of 6 people. All have different personalities, but everyone has something relatable to them, which is really cool, I think.
Exactly, and it's because those characters, like, and for example, for me, it's either Jaeger or the pilot he raced against in the episode. I'm blanking on her name right now.
Oh yeah.
But no, but go back to Jaeger. What a cool character. There are a couple details that we'll get into later on. As we do more of these recaps, but I can already tell I'm really gonna like this guy because he has a million stories to tell, and I just hope that he sticks around long enough to actually tell those stories.
True.
Given Star Wars' history of mentors.
I don't know what else to say about this episode, because I kind of said my pieces. Are there things you still want to say?
I do want to say one last thing, and that's really just the, again, so going back to the animation, I'm really digging how Flight looks. Like the actual motion of how all the ships fly around, because in Clone Wars, obviously, it was a little more janky, a little more rugged, whereas in Rebels, all the flight pattern that you saw was really smooth and it was really defined. But in either form, it to me still didn't feel that organic, if that makes sense.
No, that's very true. I can see what you're coming from, because in Rebels sometimes it looked too good, kind of.
See, to Lothal, but granted, one of the best flight sequences in Star Wars, true. But it also looked a little too perfect.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, take for example the final race in the first episode of Resistance. Beautiful, like. I can tell that Filoni looked to one of his mentors, Hayao Miyazaki, for how to sort of control that motion. And
it's true.
What
I actually really liked about it is how it shows the speed of flight, because it shows that it's really fast, actually, and that's something that sometimes is really that really goes under the radar, especially like in Rebels and in Clone Wars, where you didn't.
Heck, or even the original trilogy.
True, yeah. You sometimes just don't get a good indication of how fast these things can go, and because sometimes, of course, it's in space, and it's kind of difficult to compare stuff to each other. But this shows it right above land, and how fast it can actually go. That's something that actually we also saw in The Force Awakens when we had the X-wings come and fight the TIE fighters above Mass's castle. Like, you see them over the water, and it's actually going really fast. And that's also what the show showed, which I thought was really cool.
Yep. A couple of goofy moments, like the scene with the darts game. I do have to ask, though, BB-8 clearly saw that What's-His-Nuts, loaded the dart. So why didn't he just tell him? I do want to get a couple nitpicks out of the way, and that's one of them. And as we come back to that theme in the first couple episodes, I'll bring it up again there too, because it does kind of annoy me. But one other nitpick I do have, I hate to phrase it like this, it's the built-up mystery that I know is going to have a very obvious payoff towards the end of the season.
I think in terms of issues that I had, this animation style is more cartoonish than Rebels and Clone Wars, which also makes for more moments that characters are actually cartoonish. They can survive big falls and jumps, and they survive anyway. That kind of stuff. That's something that you would not really see that in Rebels and Clone Wars unless it's Jedi. The Jedi, of course, can make insane jumps and whatnot, but these are just some regular people, and they make kind of cartoonish false jumps, which real people wouldn't be able to survive, and that's just some nitpick I have with the animation. But yeah, it's not the biggest issue. It's just something that I noticed more like.
Well, and that's just part of the aesthetic. So.
True. No, that's very true. That's part of what they're going for. So I can't really blame it for that. It's just if I have something. Other than that, I can't really think of anything besides just, so far we have not really seen something mind-blowing, which of course they're not going for in this first episode. That's going to be later in the season, just like with Rebels. You're going to get your big episodes, of course. You're going to have, I don't know how well they'll do filler episodes, but I'm pretty sure we'll get them, because Clone Wars, Rebels, essentially every TV show ever has filler episodes, or episodes that are not as good as others. So we'll just have to wait for that. But at least this was a really solid start. And that's it, right?
I think I ought to do it.
All right, so guys, with that said, we're going to also review episodes 2 and 3 in the next couple of days, because we've seen them. We want to start this recap show, and now that I have time and Chris has time to shoot this, they're going to drop pretty fast, and then every week we're going to also review the other episodes. So, of course, look out for that. With that said, Chris, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel dedicated to art on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at D2A Channel. And you can follow my band, Silver Nightfall, at Silver Nightfall.
And you can follow me on Twitter, at Dutch Movie Guy. You can find me on Facebook, Kees Cornelisse. If you can figure out how to spell that, there's probably something in the description that says how to spell that. And with that all said, we'll see you at the next time. Viva La Resistance!
And may the Force be with you, always.
True.